Nigeria is blessed with rich mineral resources, but communities that live above these resources often are exploited from what is beneath their feet. Then the question is, who, who owns the legal title? Who bears the environmental costs? And who makes those decisions on who gets what, when, and how? In this episode of Crossing Perspective, we'll go on the ground with the managing director of Benue State Mining Company Limited to understand mining, peace building, and stabilization in Benue State. Welcome to today's Crossing Perspective, and I have with me Dr. Erdoo Mongol. Dr. Mongol is the managing director and chief executive of Benue State Mining Company Limited. Here she leads efforts at harnessing Benue State rich mineral resources, and most importantly, to find a way to drive sustainable economic growth, investment, and community development. It's important for us again to understand that before she joined the Benue State government, she is, or currently, you're still a staff of Federal Ministry of Mining, still a mining, right? Is it what it's called?
Now.
All right.
Solid minerals development.
In addition to that, she's the country secretary of Forum of Managing Directors of State-Owned Mining Companies in Nigeria, as well as a board member of Women in Mining in Africa. I mean, you have a lot going on for you here. And as well, the work she does, she sees that intersection between resource governance, peace building, and economic inclusion, with a strong focus on ensuring that Nigerian mineral resources create equitable benefits for local communities. I mean, I want to say Nigeria, but as well I want to say Benue State, where you're currently working. But because you're a staff of the Federal Ministry, I will say Nigeria. And with that, I say, welcome to Crossing Perspective.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you for having me.
Thank you. I mean, there's a lot we'll have to discuss here. But first, let's start from an area that's very critical, which is about licensing. Most times it's about between what the state is saying here, the state, I mean the federal government, and what the communities think. As someone who sits here, you see those communities and you see government. The question might be, how do you navigate the tension between these communities and people the state have given those licenses? How do we deal with the tension between these two parties? Whose right is it to even actually mine these mineral resources?
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. Like you rightly said in the introduction, I wear many hats, and these different hats have given me the opportunity to have both the bigger picture and the details as well. So, talking about the issue of licensing, first and foremost, there's no issue, there's not supposed to be any confusion or any contention. I think what is lacking is the education of the investors. So both the federal ministry and other relevant stakeholders are supposed to put all hands on deck to ensure that investors, miners, and all participants in the mining sector have adequate knowledge on what they are supposed to do. So before you are given a mining license from the federal, let me backtrack a little. Mining is on the exclusive list of the federal government. So sometimes that comes out as a confusion, but it's not a confusion because there are laid down guidelines on the issuance of licenses. It's only the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals Development. Before it was called the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, but now the name has been changed to Solid Minerals Development. And when you go to the Ministry of Solid Minerals, you have the agency, the Nigerian Mining Cadastre Office, is the one responsible for issuance of the licenses. But before you are issued licenses, there are guidelines. Number one requirement is that you will bring consent from the landowners and the community. So this is where a lot of times the confusion comes in, and is one of the issues that breeds conflict. Like I tell many people, if I have my way, this is the starting point of sensitization, training to create awareness both for the community people and for the investors. So when you go to get consent from the community, because without consent, you cannot be issued license. So when you go to get consent, it's like inviting somebody to a meeting, but it's not your job to tell the person when you are coming to the meeting, come along with your brain, right? You don't have to say that.
Yes.
I mean, it's implied. So when you ask somebody to bring consent, you don't have to spoon feed them and tell them, if you go to get consent, this is how you should do. I mean, everyone should know. If you are going to, federal government issues the license, but the federal government, they're in Abuja, they don't go to the respective villages. So you that is going there, you should look for what works for you. But the standard is to engage on the consent form, there is a space for the traditional ruler to sign, and there is a space for the landowners to sign. So what happens is that people, those investors, sometimes they just look for one influential person in the community, and which they can corner the person and will just sign for them. The community, will not be aware. No effort at awareness creation. Do you understand?
Yes.
There's supposed to be a way of engaging the community, educating them, telling them the importance of the project, so that they will own it, and they will be aware that they are giving you consent on their behalf. But most of the time, this is the missing link. So you don't get one or two influential individuals in the community and they sign the consent, and you go to the federal, you get the license, and you come back. By the time you want to bring your equipment to site, the youth group in the society will not be aware of your activities. The women groups, and other interest groups, and they will begin to query your activities, like, who are you, why are you coming here? All these things are supposed to be addressed. And also among the requirements for license, there is clearly a space where the federal government provides for community development agreements. So all these things is to give the investors opportunity to familiarize themselves with the community.
Sorry, let me interject a bit there. Okay. Can you explain to our listeners what a good community consent should look like? What should be in that form? It's not a tick box, right?
Yes.
So tell us something that if I walk into a community and they see they are ready to impress me as an investor.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, again, I will mention what I'm saying is based on my experience, going by the different hats that I wear, as you already mentioned in the introduction. I feel this is what should work. And many years ago, I went for a mining training in Australia, sponsored by the government of Australia. It was titled Community Aspects of Resource Development card. So they kind of dramatized after the training, after all the teachings, lectures, they dramatized all these things. So, going to the community, first of all, you are supposed to go to the community leader. He is supposed to call his people, so you explain the process to them, the advantages of the project you want to do, the modalities, how you intend to go about it, and definitely there will be challenges. So you let them know what are the possible challenges and how you plan to address them. Yeah. So this creates an atmosphere of transparency. It makes the people to believe. And because you have already brought them together as a community, and they are aware that they have resources underneath their feet, but for these resources to be transformed to better lives for them, something has to be done. So they will even be in support of you coming to extract their resources and to ensure that, they get jobs. value is added and all the rest. But when you don't, engage them exhaustively, they don't have trust in the project. It creates an atmosphere of suspicion like that, and that is why they begin to question, your motive. They begin to question the authenticity or the audacity of the license and all of that. And before you know it, if not properly handled, full-blown conflicts begin to come up. Yeah.
Okay, this will lead me to my next question, which is, I mean, even if as an investor you walk into a community and do all this explanation,
Yes.
there's a tendency that there might be a disagreement between the community leadership and the rest of the people, or even the community leadership and some minority within the community. As an investor, right?
Yes.
What should you be advising me to do? And then secondly, because of the cap you wear, you were the federal, now you're with Benue State government trying to put things right.
Yes.
How would you best advise an investor who has gone into a community where there's contention, right? How would the person deal with this contestation, being able to get those who doesn't want the project to go on and all that to believe in what he or she is bringing to that community?
Okay. Thank you very much for this question as well. So first and foremost, when you see agitations, when people are not satisfied, when people are complaining, maybe there is something that is agitating them. So the first thing I would advise is that you find out from them, what is the issue. Sometimes they could have issues with previous investors, and so they become reactionary. So first and foremost, you need to find out from them what is their problem. And another thing I learned in Australia is that, I talked about the issue of community development agreements. So when you are extracting mineral resources in an environment, like it or not, the people will be subjected to some environmental impacts. So coming there from the outset, you should tell them, your feasibility that you have done, because part of the license also requires pre-feasibility studies. And then you should tell them what you expect to get from the project and what you aspire to do for them. So when they clearly understand, and then also you don't just tell them what you want to do for them, you do needs assessment. Every community have their own peculiar challenges, including the groups that will have complaints here and there. If you see them having complaints, it means something is pinching them somewhere. So you find out from them what is pinching them, what do they want. Even sometimes, from what I learned in Australia, even if the project you want to do is good and beneficial to the people, they prefer it when you engage them in the decision making, so that it doesn't look like you are throwing the project at them because you feel that they are in need. Yeah. But when you carry them along, you give them that respect, they have that sense of belonging. So it's easier for them to buy in. And once they know that you are genuinely concerned about their progress and economic development, they are more prone to listen to you and to trust. So this is the best way to cushion warring factions within the community. And when they understand that you are for everybody, you are not taking sides to shortchange some interest group because this one has one advantage or the other. When they see that you are genuinely transparent, you give everybody level playing field to express themselves and show genuine interest in addressing their concerns, I think they will be positive.
MD, your first two answers, if I'm rating you as your lecturer,
Yes, sir.
I'll give you at least an A plus, right?
Thank you.
Good. But now we are diving deep into the work you do in Benue State. No more no more theories.
It's okay.
I want to hear how you've been dealing with issues. Everybody in Nigeria knows that. I mean, Benue State is often described as a garden of Eden because of the resources in the state, from good vegetation to natural resources and so on.
Yes.
Beyond all this is a conflict situation with the state, from farmer-herder conflict to natural resources conflict, the solid mineral, armed act of fishing and mining,
Yes.
as well as the banditry going on and so on.
Yes.
So for someone who wants to invest in the states, knowing all these things might have a bit of doubt whether it's the right place to go. For an investor, investors can understand risk,
Yes.
but uncertainty is something they want to run away from. So looking at the work you do in Benue State, let's be more practical now.
Yes.
I'm sure some of these things you've been telling us here, you've been dealing with some of them. I'm sure listeners want to hear you. Tell us about some of the communities in Benue where you applied most of these your big theory, big thinking, and way of getting things solved.
Okay. Thank you very much for this question. I'm going to answer it this way. I myself am new in Benue. Incidentally, I've been all over the place, but residing in Benue and new. And also this company.
And then your governor felt she's our own. She needs to come back and help us.
Yes. So let me put it this way. Across Nigeria, like we all know, mining is on the exclusive list of the federal government. What that means is that state governments are more or less like spectators. The mining law, the Nigerian Mining and Minerals Act of 2011 as amended, does not provide clear-cut, specifications for state government to actively participate in the mining, even though we know that the federal government issues the licenses, but the respective states are the custodians of the land, through the communities. So these state governments, I believe, coming to an understanding that, look, we've been spectators for a long time. Let us find a way to become operators, active stakeholders in this mining enterprise. So they now came up with the idea of creating SPVs, special purpose vehicles. So this is where the issue of state government-owned mining companies came on board. And if you look at different states, like Kaduna State Mining Company, last year they were 10 years. Adamawa State Mining Company, they are 20-something years. Plateau State Mining Company is more than 10 years. You look at the respective states, Anambra is, many years down the line as well. So for Benue State, incidentally, no governor has come up with the idea of creating the company at all before now. And from the preliminary work we have done, the deck studies we've done, because the company is nascent, so all our work, everything is still new, and we are just delving and going gradually in the sector. So we've discovered over 44 mineral deposits. I have those brochures, hard copy I'll share with you after this podcast. We have over 44, ranging from limestone, lead zinc, ilmenite, gold, clay, industrial minerals, metallic minerals. Yes, a lot.
I'm moving to Benue.
You're always welcome. We have all of that. But then, this is the first time for a sitting governor of Benue State to even conceive the idea of creating the company. So I commend His Excellency, Reverend Father, Chief Doctor Hyacinth Yomem Alia. Recently he was given a chieftaincy title because of the massive infrastructure going on in state. So for him to even conceive the idea, I commend him, because if you don't start, there'll be no progress at all. Now he has done step 1. So we are going into step 2, and we hope that things will continue to improve as we move on. So largely the projection is positive, but we are new. In fact, like you said in the introduction, I'm the country secretary for the forum. Last year we met for our executive meeting of the managing directors across Nigeria. We met in Kaduna, and 18 of us managing directors were in the room. So you see what is happening across the state, what everybody is trying to do. The mining companies are trying to do to improve mining in their respective states. And we were like the youngest. So a lot needs to be done, but we are learning, and I believe we are in the right direction. So this is what I was saying.
Okay, you be managed to not answer my question, but that's fine. So I have another question.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe because since you work for the federal government and your secondment to your state, whether you want to answer this. Do you think we have a fair benefit sharing arrangement between the federal government and the states? Especially where the state clears the poor.
Okay, thank you. In all honesty, and I think the Nigerian Mining and Minerals Act of 2011 as amended is actually due for review. In all honesty, there is a gap. This issue of mining being on the exclusive list of the federal government, it creates a gap between the federal and state. There needs to be synergy. So this issue that you mentioned about benefit sharing, first and foremost, in the collection of the royalties, there is a gap because the federal government sends people to the respective states to collect royalties and all of that. But these people going to the respective states, they are new in those places. In your terrain, somebody else cannot know your terrain more than you, right? So there has to be that synergy of, I don't know, there is also the MIREMCO. MIREMCO is Mineral Resources and Environmental Management Committee, which is a brainchild of the federal government through the ministry, and they try to interface with the state governments to bridge this gap that exists in the law. However, the MIREMCO itself, sometimes the management of the MIREMCO is kind of passive. So it doesn't help to bridge the gap that exists. So until we come to a point where state governments work with the federal hand in hand to check what is coming in, otherwise, even in that, there are revenue gaps or leakages. But the federal government alone cannot achieve all of that independent of the state government, because the state government, they are the owners of the land. Yeah. They are the ones that know the nooks and crannies. Even where the federal government staff will not be able to navigate and go there to, make sure that there is no revenue leakages, the people in the state will be able to know because it's their own place. Do you understand? Even like my village now, because of the crisis and all of that, if you are going to my village, you definitely have to carry security with you. But when I'm going there, I don't need security. So some places I will be able to go seamlessly. You coming from outside, we need some sort of support, and that alone creates a barrier already. So there has to be a coming together to create synergy. This era, I think, is the era of teamwork.
Is this synergy or us kind of redrafting the sharing arrangement?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But don't you think that this, if we redraft the sharing arrangement, my brothers from the Niger Delta will ask that question, what about us?
Yeah, oil has its own peculiarities, which are different from the mineral sector. And because of the oil, that the mining sector was abandoned many years ago. This is why you have the issues now of illegal mining, or you call them informal miners or artisanal miners. You have all these challenges in the mining sector because the sector was abandoned for a long time. Yeah. You didn't have active players, that will drive the system. So the artisanal and informal miners, came in their large numbers, which is also a problem in itself. So they may ask questions in the Niger Delta, but they also need to know that this is a sector that has been neglected for long. So for things to work, a particular attention has to be paid to this sector.
So can you suggest that in the true sense of true federalism,
Yes.
states, the subnationals should control their resources and pay tax to the federal?
Well, like I said, I will answer this with my explanation. In my first response, I did say that there is need for a coming together, sitting on the table to discuss. Because
For a renegotiation.
yes. So in that negotiation, it depends on what they come up with.
Okay.
And also, that the revenue from the oil sector is different.
Yes.
You see, the allocation is shared every month because what comes in is massive. But in the mining sector, it's not like that.
But we have the opportunity to make the mining sector as contributory as natural as for you.
Yes, we have to do that by first of all coming together, trying to work together to block the revenue leakages. Because right now, what we have is that when the revenue from the mining sector comes in, sometimes it's meager. So you discover that they don't share it every month. Sometimes they have to accumulate it. So it's inconsistent. It's epileptic, if I may use that word on a lighter note. So you can't really depend on the revenue from the mining sector because you don't even know when they are going to share it. Then it's not predictable. It depends on how they are able to, on how they accumulate it, and according to the fact, they see that it is worth sharing.
Okay. So let's look at another area that is of interest to me and to a lot of people who understand the connection between the two, and that's the area of regulation and governance. I think we have issues with our regulation and governance structure or framework. And because we wear two hats, I'm going to ask you this question. I know for sure that we are struggling with the issue of formalization of artisanal mining. And I'm sure where you are in Benue State, you are seeing a lot of people who should be commercial miners claiming to be artisanal miners. And most times, these are non-Nigerians. I don't know what the federal government is doing. Right? I want to call them out. I'd say you're not doing enough. But good enough, I'm sitting with somebody who sits both at the federal level as a civil servant, right? And then who is now in the state managing a state mining company. What do you think Benue State should do differently from what federal government is saying?
Thank you for this question. Let me say that the issue of artisanal miners, or you call them informal miners, or illegal miners, as the case may be, is a global issue. These are activities that are driven primarily by hunger. And 90% of the times, the people who engage in artisanal miners are the locals. It happens on a subsistence level. They are just trying to survive. They are just looking for what to eat per day, per week, per month, like that. So, incidentally, my department in the ministry for 14 years was the artisanal and small-scale mining department. So the role of the department was to formalize the artisanal miners, provide extension services to them, teach them how to carry out mining following the HSE, health, safety, and environmental, principles, following global practices. So, but you see, the issue is that, as I mentioned in my previous response, the mining sector has been neglected for many years. So, first, the issue of funding. I don't remember when we ever got enough money in the department to carry out formalization for all the states. You discover that when the budget comes, um, the department will just manage to go to one state or two states, at most three states. You understand? So what does that tell you? The rest of the states are not, um, you know, formalized, or the efforts is not even reaching them. So you remember 2010? I don't know, but if you Google it, you can see it. The issue of lead poisoning in Zamfara, the outbreak of that lead poisoning in Zamfara that led up to resulted in the death of over 5,000 kids below the age of 5. So when that outbreak happened, I mean, the federal government through the ministry was trying to address it, but it was just overwhelming. I remember then we had the Doctors Without Borders, we had the United Nations, UNIDO, you had the World Bank. Different organizations came together to support the issue of remediation, mine closure, cleaning, and all of that. And at the end of the day, they were able to address the concern and put an end to the deaths. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that the issue of artisanal mining is a global issue. It's not something that even the ministry can handle alone. It's not an issue that Benue State can handle alone. So I'm very happy that today I'm sitting here with you, with all the work you do, peace, economic development, and all of that. I also want to pass this message across to you that mining can also be used as a tool for, promoting peace in the society. And one of it is through this formalization of artisanal miners. Because like you mentioned, why this issue of conflict through consent, persists, you also have the issue of informal miners showing up on people's licenses because they're trying to get survival, livelihoods, and all of that. So if we all come together, all different organizations that have the capability to lend a helping hand, they give that helping hand, and we're able to harness these resources and provide structured training, awareness creation, to help educate the people. I believe that it will go a long way addressing this problem. So it's not what Benue State can do. Sure. In fact, no government all over the world has been able to single-handedly address the issue of artisanal miners.
Thank you so much. I mean, we're getting to the end of this our conversation, but I have one more question. Now, because of where you sit, I don't know how you're going to answer this, but you can kind of sidestep it if you don't want to. Beyond the reasons that we know, the constraints that we know, are there other issues you think is affecting mining development in the country?
Yes.
Which these issues are either hardly discussed, right? Yeah. Or under discussed. I mean, under discussed here is that we try to paint them not the way they are. I'm sure listeners will not know. Okay. What are these issues?
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, in my own, or from my own experience, I have identified 3 major challenges in the Nigerian mining sector. One of it is the one we have discussed extensively, which is the artisanal or informal or illegal miners. The federal government through the ministry, in a way to help address this problem, they stopped calling them illegal miners. They were calling them informal miners. Mm-hmm. So even there was a time when the World Bank stepped into and supported to do this formalization. So, this is one major problem, no doubt, the informal miners, because of the paucity of resources. Yeah. It's not easy. Like I said, for 14 years, I was in the artisanal and small-scale mining department in the ministry. Now I'm in the Mines Environmental Compliance Department. So it's difficult to go around all the states to sensitize, to educate the artisanal miners. The idea is to form them into cooperatives, educate them, give them support, give them grants, help them to do things in the right way. But that exercise is not cheap. So because of paucity of funds, it has been difficult to go around all the states, So that is one
The
major.
second one is funding.
No, the first one is, let's not even talk about funding.
Yes.
Let's focus on the issues itself, because funding is, I would say, is a universal problem.
There can never be no funds.
Exactly. So after the informal artisanal mining problem in the mining sector, the second problem, in all honesty, and I mean no harm to anybody, and I hope nobody is offended, is the issue of weak enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah. It's also part of what I said, that the federal government needs to synergize with the state government, in the enforcement. Because if you are coming from outside to come and monitor what is happening in the state, you need to work hand in hand with the people in the state to be able to.
Do you think this enforcement is deliberate? Sorry, I have to.
Deliberate how? The weak.
Yeah, I mean, you can deliberately not want to enforce, even when you know you can't.
No, it's not.
You sure?
I think it's not deliberate. You know why? Because with my experience in the ministry, I know that the ministry usually sends what you call the federal mines officers in the respective states, and give them hillocks and all of that. But one hillocks and one person to go around the state to monitor all the respective mining sites. I know recently they created the mining marshals, but if there is no sufficient funding, that's why I say funding is universal. It will apply to every fund.
Yeah, but you can deliberately not want to fund because you want it to fail.
Well, I think it also has to do with educating our people, our leaders. They need to know the importance. It also ties to the earlier point I raised. Mining has been neglected for many years. So now it's coming back to the front burner, but leadership at all levels, they are still grappling with, the issue of, or the understanding that, look, we need to fund this sector. You get the point.
Yes.
So for effective monitoring or effective enforcement, there has to be funding. These people needs to be funded. They need fueling, they need security, they need support to be able to go around and check what is going on and all of that. So it's a bit complex, but I mean, that is the second problem.
So let's hear the last one.
The last one is the issue of limited investment in geological data. You see, all over Nigeria, and when I say all over Nigeria, remember that I sit in the room with the managing directors across the states, and anywhere.
So, Eddie, sorry, I keep interrupting you. What does it take us to get that? It's not rocket science.
I know it's not rocket science, but geoscience data is not cheap to acquire.
Well, we can afford it.
Yes, we have the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency, NGSA. NGSA is the national repository of geoscience data for the country. And they have done very good work in most of the states, if not all. So what the respective states need to do is not to reinvent the wheel, is to align with NGSA, lay hold of what they already have, and then, even though most of what they have is regional data, but at least that one can help you to narrow it down. So the states needs to understand that you have to invest in mining. However, when you talk about investing in mining, it scares people away. They feel like, oh, it takes time and all of that. No, mining is gradational. There are low-hanging fruits, or let me put it this way, there are short-term, mid-term, and long-term investments in mining. Let's use the issue of sand dredging, for example. For sand dredging, it's quick. Once you acquire your mining license or quarrying license, however you call it, once you get the license, you go straight, acquire your dredger, your payloader, and your trucks, and you go to field. And you can negotiate. We have construction work going on everywhere in Nigeria. You were in Benue recently. You remember that, or you saw that Benue State is like a construction sites, the whole of the state.
Yeah.
So everywhere, nooks and cranny you turn, you have constructions going on. So if we plan very well, you arrange with the different contractors, different stakeholders, to offtake. So by the time you acquire your license, or you don't even have to get the equipment by yourself. This is where the investors come in. So once you have your license, liaise with the investors, they bring the equipment and straight you go to work. You just fetch the sand, no processing is required, and you already arrange with the construction companies for off-taking. So it's very quick and straightforward. Then while you are doing that, you are generating revenue and you are rechanneling it into other sectors that require more time. For the sand, I think you don't even need too much of the geoscience data gathering and all of that. But when you talk about things like lead, zinc, fluoride, and the rest of them, you need a little bit of work, gold, and the rest. You need, pre-feasibility studies and feasibility studies. You want to assure your investors that you have done your studies and you see that this deposit is viable.
Yeah.
You go from just the speculative to the reserve estimation. So this data generation is expensive, yes, but it can be done in stages. The first step is to liaise with NGSA, Nigerian Geological Survey Agency, lay hold of what they have, and then begin to narrow down. And like I said, they have the regional data, but you don't have to do everything. Like I said, in Benue, we have over 44 mineral deposits and still counting. But you don't have to do everything at the same time. You look at the minerals of interest based on your interaction with investors and all of that. So you have a scale of preference. So with the low-hanging fruits in the mining sector, you're already generating revenue. And then the other ones that are of interest and you see that there's a lot of demand for it, you begin to invest in those ones. So you prioritize and become strategic with your
investment.
Exactly. So the issue of data is very important because sand is on the surface. Anybody can readily see it. So most investors may not really need to do reserve estimation for them to know that this is profitable. But when you're talking about gold, you're talking about lead, zinc, things that needs to be excavated, the investors will want to have a detailed study.
So is this part of what your office is currently doing?
Yes, like I said, we are new, but we have put machineries in place.
Yeah.
We are almost out there with the paperwork, and we have so many things in place, and we are hoping that all of this will work out. So these things I'm saying now, they will become reality, so that we are not just saying them on paper, but actually in practice.
Yeah, MD, you are really a round peg, a round goal. You really know your onions. I'm sure whoever recommended you to your governor didn't just pick somebody from somewhere. Well, I'm really impressed with what the discussion. But I've left the sweetest parts, which if I don't ask you, most of our listeners will be asking why. And that is the nexus between conflict in Benue and natural resources or mining. I mean, I understand the other natural resources issues, especially around Agatu, that has to do with fishing and waters and that. But I'm thinking about the part that has to do with solid minerals. What is your office doing? What is the state government doing? How do we start to resolving this conflict that has to do with solid minerals in Benue? It's important that we understand that a lot of people are benefiting from it. And probably these are the conflict entrepreneurs in the state that wouldn't want the state to be in peace, so that we continue to mine this solid mineral irregularly. So we want to know your opinion, and this might serve as my final question.
Thank you very much. Actually, I was going to touch on that before closing, because I remember you asked me that question earlier on, but I answered it and then it stopped me at some point, so I didn't get to mention that part. So, the issue of, I don't like the word herders and farmers conflict. You understand? Benue State is predominantly, made up of farmers. So it's when you have a neighbor that is doing something with you that, do you understand? Yeah, we don't have, these people come all the way in search of pastures for their cows, so there's really no connection, and it's not supposed to be conflict, because like most of the times the issues that happen, they happen in the night when the farmers are sleeping. So you are sleeping and somebody comes to attack you. Why is that a conflict? It's not a conflict, that is an attack. That is one. In the state, like we all know, and this is where the name was drawn from, the food basket of the nation. The soil of Benue State is very good for agricultural purposes, but also Benue State is blessed with a lot of, like you said at the beginning, abundant mineral resources. So somehow there is really no conflict about mining and agriculture, because the people, they have, I would say, is it common sense or natural understanding? They have an appreciation of their mineral resources. They have an appreciation of their agriculture. And if actually properly harnessed, it's supposed to, like, work hand in hand. Like, one is supposed to complement the other. So a lot of the mining activities happen during the dry season when agriculture is on hold. So it's the same people doing agriculture during the dry season when they are only selling what they have produced during the rainy season. They go back to mining. And then during the rainy season, most of the mining activities are on low key. They go back to their farming. So there's really not supposed to be conflict. And actually, there is no conflict in that regard. And it may interest you to know, I come from Kwande local government. In the whole of Benue State, Kwande has the highest number of mineral deposits. The brochure I talked about, I will share it with you at the end. You will see that we have a map of Benue State, and we have the different minerals that so far we have identified according to local government, plotted on the map. And you will see the huge number that Kwande have. And from some of the works that we have done, visiting the fields to see what other investors have done within our territory. One of the questions I ask whenever I go to any mining site, you see some of them are in the outskirts. They are remote. There is no connection with the city. And some of them, one that I visited recently in Kwande, they told me, I was asking them, how long have you guys been operating here? They say, over 10 years. I said, have you been having issues with herders attacks and all of that? Because all of the communities surrounding this mining site have been evacuated. Some of them have been dislodged from their lands for more than 15 years now. And it will interest you to know that these mining companies said they have never experienced any attack on their sites. And these sites are in the middle of the communities that have all been displaced. Do you understand? So I don't know how to fix that puzzle, but there is a disconnect where we have the mining companies operating in our respective villages. They are not attacked, but the communities are attacked. I don't know why that, and yet to have a concrete explanation for that. And that is to tell you that the people themselves, they are in support of mining in their community. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because if the people were not in support of mining, having been displaced, they should have been making efforts. If the headers will not attack these companies, let us destabilize them. But there is nothing like that. They are operating, seamlessly, and every month you see hundreds of trucks going out with
And,
mineral.
and they pay tax to the federal.
Yes, So, I believe so. I'm not the one responsible for collecting the tax, so I don't see the record, but I believe because they should have modalities in place for checking royalties and all of that. So
So that's why someone like me, most times I wonder why, just like the scenario, not scenario now, the story you told us, if we have a situation where the mining companies are not attacked and the communities are attacked, I mean, we should be asking those questions.
Yeah, like I said, this is like a puzzle. Yeah. So it's not what I can answer in my capacity because I don't have all the details to what is playing out. But this is reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is reality.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, with that, we come to the end of today's episode. I mean, it was good having you talking Mongol. We listened to some of the issues in the ways. I mean, there are a lot of talks here that ideas we need to like puzzle over and find a way around it, especially as we work towards having sustainable mining as well as sustainable communities. Thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you. Can I ask you a question as well?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, having discussed and have given me the opportunity, which I'm grateful for me to, pour out. I believe that's what I have done.
Yes.
Tell you what is happening. One of the things I told you was that the issue of artisanal miners, what we need to do, formalization, training of traditional rulers, community groups, interest groups, youths, women groups here and there, creating awareness, helping them to know what to expect. Because there is one aspect we didn't talk about here, the issue of mine closure, remediation, reclamation at the end of mining. So the people need to be armed with adequate knowledge on what they should expect. Do you understand? So all this falls into formalization, provision of extension services to artisanal miners and all of that. I did mention in our discussion that, no government can single-handedly do all of these things. So having shared this with you, they say a problem shared is a problem half solved.
So what can Nextier do with you? Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for posing that question to us. Like we are an international consulting advisory firm. We work with a lot of development partners as well. One of the things people know us for is the way we are able to develop knowledge. This knowledge from research, from policy, and from the work we do. Issue of mining has been one critical area as a firm we've written extensively on. And one of them has equally been issue of formalization of artisanal mining. I mean, without trying to conceal some information, about 2-3 years ago, Nextier approached the ministry, wanted to help them to develop pathway to formalization of artisanal mining in the country. We were deep into it and it never materialized. So probably with people like you now, it might be good to revisit that idea again and see how that works.
Okay.
I mean, until we start formalizing artisanal mining in the country, conflicts around it will continue to grow.
Yes.
Because if countries like South Africa, Australia, Namibia, Zimbabwe, so on, even our neighbors Ghana,
yes, sir,
can have good mining structure.
yes, sir,
Yeah, in as much as they still have some
challenges. Yes.
Sorry. We still find that things are going on well. But thank you for raising this, and we will continue to find a way to deepen this conversation and see how we can find a pathway to it.
Yeah. And like you said, just to conclude, the issue of artisanal mining, formalization, and all of this, I want you to sleep over it as you revisit your ideas before that you put forward to the ministry. I hope you do remember that we can actually address it at different levels.
Yes.
From the level of the ministry,
Yes.
we can also start from Benue State as a
exactly.
case study,
Yes.
and then we gravitate towards, the federal and
So probably we can start a pilot or a case study with Benue and see how that works.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that idea.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure my team were all listening and we're taking notes.
Okay.
We'll come back to you.
I very appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
All right.